I was saying, Joy Taylor, every dog has its day. And since I'm a big dog, I've got 2 days.
Okay.
So now.
You just called yourself a dog?
Yeah, I'm a dog. Yeah, I'm a big dog, a big one.
Kevin Durant is 6'11", who can pull up from 40.
Okay.
This brother is on that level. I'm talking about offensively.
Do you think you're better than Jarrell Revis is right now?
I'm better than you.
Welcome back to another episode of the Lowdown Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Mark Brown, as always, and I have a very special guest on the show. So this is going to be about the NFL Combine. This is part 2. I already had part 1 earlier, and I have this special guest is no ordinary special guest. He's an NFL draft writer for CBS Sports. His name is Chris Trapasso. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime, Chris. Anytime, Chris. So starting off, knowing that you're an NFL draft writer, how are you feeling about this Combine and how it's going to turn out, like, towards the end?
Yeah, I'm just really excited to see this group of wide receivers. We've heard, if anyone's just even getting into the NFL draft post-Super Bowl, they've probably heard or read something about how good this wide receiver group is. So not only is it a talented group, probably more talented than we've had probably since 2014 on the field, I think a lot of these top prospects are going to test really well in the 40-yard dash, the jumps, the agility drills. I'm really looking forward to that. And then how about the offensive tackle group? We've had 2 or 3 or 4 offensive tackle classes that most of the early picks have kind of been underwhelming or disappointing early in their NFL careers. This is the best offensive tackle group, and that's a premier position that we've had in quite some time. I'm excited to see these big guys run and kind of show that they are 2 very good athletes. There's a lot, 4 or 5 or 6 guys could maybe even go in the first round at the offensive tackle spot. So that's kind of the 2 position groups that I'm really going to be zeroing in on over the weekend in Indianapolis.
Oh yeah, that's another thing I was looking forward to too. And then because it's another thing like. I was telling people, don't be surprised if a few of these offensive tackles or even pass rushers run a decent 40 time, because there's been times in the recent past where there's been linemen that ran sub-5 flat, like a 4.9 or below in the 40. So, I was telling people, don't be surprised if you see that. And not only that is, I was looking at some of the running backs, obviously the running back, this is good running back core, but I feel like it's not going to be as great as I feel like the class of 2016 was extremely talented. You had people like Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, and you also had Kenyon Drake and other running backs like that. And I believe Todd Gurley was also in that mix, or if I'm mistaken, he could have been in 2015. I'm assuming it was 2016. But either way, those running backs were highly talented, and they're definitely dominating right now. They're dominant forces in the NFL today. But, I would see Jonathan Taylor being one of those guys that could be possibly one of those dominant guys.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with your sentiment for the most part that it's not a great running back class from top to bottom. I don't think we'll see anyone in the first round, but the guy that you mentioned, Jonathan Taylor, I think has the best opportunity to maybe sneak into the back couple of picks in round 1. And that's not really fully an indictment on the talent for a lot of these running backs, like a Jonathan Taylor or a J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State, DeAndre Swift from Georgia, even Cam Akers from Florida State. Just the teams are realizing that the positional value isn't there and that you can get pretty good production from the running game by picking running backs 3rd round or later. But I do think Jonathan Taylor has the best opportunity to, continue that streak of running backs going in the first round, because he's over 220 pounds at 5'10", 5'11", so he has feature back size. And he was a state champion sprinter in high school. And you saw not only great runs between the tackles, 6-7 yards at Wisconsin, grinding out those kind of blue-collar yardage, but you saw some home runs from him. You saw 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown runs where in the open field he looks like a true burner at that size. So I think if he runs a great time, if it's, firmly in the 4.4 range between, say, 4.42 and 4.48, that's going to be really, really moving, and that could catapult him, from being a lock to go in the second round to maybe even sneaking into the back portion of the first round.
Yeah, exactly. And I can visualize him being like a starter within his first 2 seasons, whatever team picks him up, And because I know it's going off his weaknesses, some scouts might look at him saying that, because he has a lot of mileage on him, right? coming out of college, and then they might look at that. And then he also fumbled the ball multiple times. Like, I think from this report I saw, he fumbled it, I think, at least 15 times throughout his career in college, and they might see that as another takeaway. But at the same time, at the end of the day, film doesn't lie, because the combine is obviously important, but I feel like the film is the most important component when it comes to getting drafted. And the combine is, the invite, but you definitely don't want to butcher it, because there's been players in the past who've had poor performances in the combine where people had high expectations, or scouts had high expectations of them dominating that, and then that can definitely lower your draft stock. So so everybody who's been invited needs to take this seriously, make sure they stay out of injury, and make sure they do their very best instead of just kind of halfway doing it. Because there's been times, like I said, I mean it's kind of rare to see it, but whenever it does happen, you just hate to see it.
Yeah, definitely, and I think teams that and just draft analysts like myself, like I think what you said is spot on, that film matters more than anything else. But teams, draft analysts, media members know at this point that there are very few star players in the NFL that you look back at their combine and you see a poor combine performance. I mean, most of the really, really good players, the elite guys, the Von Millers, the Cam Newtons, Patrick Mahomes, and even a lot of the skill positions like Julio Jones, receiver, corner. You look back at their combines and you see a top-level combine from top to bottom, whether that be, that's 40 vertical, 3-cone, broad jump. So teams will push good athletes up the board even if they don't have flawless film, because they realize, hey, this is a moldable ball of clay that I could end up, turning into a good player with the right position coach. And the guys that don't test very well, they kind of have an uphill climb, even if they're polished, even if their, position specific skills are good. It's just an uphill climb because you're playing with the top 1% of the top 1% by the time you get up into the NFL. And that's why, although I do believe, like with you, that film is the most important, that the combine does carry some pretty significant weight during this pre-draft evaluation process.
Exactly. That was very well said right there. And so will you be covering the event? Will you be in Indianapolis by chance, or?
Yeah, I'm actually going later in the week because a lot of what I do for CBS is more of the evaluation side. The measurements have happened the last 2 days, and we've had the media availabilities for the players yesterday and today, and we'll get that through Thursday. And then Thursday, starting at 4 o'clock, through the weekend, through Sunday evening, all of the players split up into different positional groups, obviously. We'll go through all the on-field drills. Will be timed, will be, measured with their jumps. So, yeah, I'll be there later in the week kind of tracking what's going on with all these players on the field inside Lucas Oil Stadium.
Oh, I know that's going to be a really cool experience right there, just getting a chance to actually report and actually see these guys perform during this combine. Because I know it's like there's a lot of scouts that are going to be out there, a lot of media personnel, and knowing the fact that you'll be part of it will be pretty cool to see. And another thing is, there's been rumors, like I saw a headline on NFL.com earlier today saying that they're going to be possibly adding some new drills to this combine. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, none of the drills that are being added are ones that are going to be timed, that are going to go into, the quantitative side of the evaluation process. But because it's kind of becoming a made-for-TV event now, moving to prime time this year for the first time, a lot of the position coaches were kind of surveyed by the NFL, and they've established some newer drills. Like for defensive linemen, they're doing a figure 8 drill that kind of shows a defensive lineman's ability to kind of bend and turn the corner. Offensive linemen are doing a drill where they simulate running out on a screen. Linebackers are doing more of a coverage drill this year. They're going to throw end zone fades to wide receivers to see how they can high point the football. Just some things that we never saw before at the combine that are a little more position specific, and just will look better on TV and allow scouts and, draft media like myself to kind of see these players moving the type of way that they will be on Sundays.
Yeah, exactly. And, one of those drills that, because I noticed that you were right about that, because I noticed during the combine they do have drills for each position where it's not timed. It's just, for example, like the receivers, they'll do this thing called receiver gauntlet, They stand in one spot. I think you know what I'm talking about, right? When they stand in one spot and then they run through like a bunch of quarterbacks just throwing the ball. They have to look left and right. And then, so that's probably like – I feel like that's one of the most entertaining drills to see. I mean, there's been a time – I think it was a couple years back. I couldn't remember the guy's name from the top of my head, but I remember he got decked right in the head because he looked the wrong way. And by the time he made a look to the left, the ball was already there, and it just, he didn't have enough reaction time to, dodge it. So he got hit right in the face. But he was able to finish the drill with no issue after that.
Yeah, I mean, that happens sometimes. And with these drills that are not timed or not measured, there won't be any NFL evaluators, GMs or scouts, or really any media members that will knock a player for that if they look the wrong way at the start of a drill or during a drill. And like you said, it's really all about, for those, just getting through it. And yeah, you can take some things from a gauntlet drill, just how natural a wide receiver's hands are. Or like I said, the screen drill for an offensive lineman, you can see, how well he gets out in space. But really, that to me is more made for TV for the viewer. Everything, the 6 main drills that are measured, the 40, the broad jump, the vertical, the 3-cone, the short shuttle, and some prospects run the 60-yard shuttle. That is what we can compare, certain times and certain measurements to the past to see if, say, a wide receiver is an upper echelon athlete for his position.
And speaking of receivers, I wanted to delve into that real quick because some of the receivers that I know would have a more than decent performance is definitely CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma. And I could definitely see Devin Duvernay performing really well because this guy used to be a track athlete coming out of high school, and he ran a 10.2 actually in state when he was a junior. Ran a 10.27 100-meter dash. So it won't surprise me to see if he has one of the fastest 40 times, if not the fastest 40 time in the entire combine.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm really excited, and I think a lot of people are, to see this wide receiver class because it's talented in general. Like I said, on the field, just with the skills that so many of these wide receivers have. But you're right. I mean, you just mentioned Duvernay, and he's really not someone that's getting that much buzz, but he's small slot receiver. And to me, he's interesting because most slot receivers get that label that they're quicker than they are fast. I think he's kind of the opposite. I don't think for playing a slot receiver role in the NFL, he's super quick. But once he gets the ball in his hands, or if you use him down the field, he's going to run by a lot of cornerbacks, even at the NFL level. You have Jerry Jeudy from Alabama. Henry Ruggs is probably going to threaten John Ross's record of 4.22 in the 40-yard dash. Jalen Reagor from TCU could run in the 4.2s as well. So for as hyped as this wide receiver class is, it's not just a group of wide receivers that are skilled and are going to be good pros, but I think super fast, super athletic group altogether at the top. And then we're going to see a lot of guys like a Duvernay that aren't going to go in the first round, but are ultimately very, very high caliber athletes.
Exactly. Because to me, it won't even matter what round Devin Duvernay gets selected. And I feel like he can be a dominant force. I can see him being a dominant force in the NFL in the years to come because he has that raw talent. Like you said, he can get past corners. And if since he's a slot, say sometimes the safety tries to pick him up in cover 2. I mean, I feel like he can easily blow past him because he's too explosive for these guys. I mean, it's going to take some of the even some top-tier corners, some of the best cornerbacks in the league, some of the most prolific and most explosive ones will even have a hard time guarding somebody like that. Because usually, the quickest receivers out there, like, for example, look at Tyreek Hill. I mean, Tyreek Hill gives everybody a hard time because he's the fastest guy in the league. And just to see somebody like that, that's near his speed, because Devin Duvernay only ran just a tenth slower than Tyreek Hill did with his personal record in the 100. So, I mean, it's going to be definitely ideal to watch him play, and especially since Devin Duvernay has a lot of strength too. Because I remember I had an internship this past summer with KXAN TV. It's a NBC affiliate station out there in Austin, Texas, and I got a chance to cover them during this previous fall camp. And head coach Tom Herman had a lot of important things to say about Devin Duvernay and how special he is, besides Colin Johnson being on the other end. So yeah, I mean, those two receivers they're polar opposites. I mean, obviously Colin Johnson's one of the tallest receivers at the combine, and Duvernay is one of the smallest. Another point about Duvernay that I really like is the fact that not only does he have that elite speed at the slot receiver position, he has great hands. I mean, he was the go-to target for Sam Ehlinger this season. Really boosted his production in his senior season.
doesn't really drop a lot of passes. May not have the biggest hands, may not have the biggest catch radius, but just a very natural hands catcher. So for those slot